Gangsta tales, niggas out jacking. Niggas out jacking. Gangsta tales, niggas out jacking. Niggas out jacking.
Chillin' on the block, swinging hour by hour. But all folk wants is the money and the power. Some may try to flex and some may try to dish, yo. But I'm the type of brother that'll running yo.
Dog, bitch.
You get snaskin'.
Dog, bitch.
You get snaskin'.
I got it.
There's no denying that New Orleans in the early 1990s was a battleground for many beefs and wars between projects and hoods throughout the city. All you have to do is listen to the music from that era. Artists like Sporty T, Everlasting Hitman, Magnolia Slim, and Fela Phil, just to name a few. But there's another part of New Orleans, well, not necessarily New Orleans in a sense, but only a few miles away, right across the Crescent City connection, which we call the West Bank. The West Bank consists of a bunch of neighborhoods that would rival any project uptown or downtown New Orleans. The Cutoff, Shadow Ames, De Gaulle Manor, Mary Poppins, Marrero, West Wago, and of course the deadly Harvey, Louisiana. The West Bank is home to many labels, from the well-known Big Boy Records to the lesser-known labels like Slaughterhouse. But during the 80s and early 90s, there was one label that stood out the crowd: Mobo Joe Records, the label that had some of the hardest rappers coming out of the boot. Ruthless Juveniles, Doghouse Posse, and Lower Level. Mobo Joe, CEO, owner and producer, was a young street hustler at the time, putting his dope boy money to work way before Chuck from Big Boy Records had ever left California and headed to Louisiana to kickstart his label. Mobo Joe Records, later just Mobo Records, sprang up over on the West Bank and initially focused on West Bank rappers. By doing that, it brought deserved attention to rappers frequently overlooked in the focus on their East Bank neighbors. Like them, Mobo had its share of bounce rappers. However, what made it more unique was groups like Doghouse Posse, Lower Level Organization, and Ruthless Juveniles, who crafted the label's undeniably low-budget, raw strain of gangster rap characterized by morbid horror imagery that even, on at least one occasion, sampled a Fulci film. Or, as Mobo described themselves on one of their compilations, they had a bounce side and a hustle side. Their albums looked different too. Definitely operating on a budget, they rarely approximated the pen-pixel graphic covers of their East Bank neighbors, but often featured hand-drawn covers. For singles, they usually stuck with cassettes well into the CD age. Those usually didn't have covers at all. Behind it all was Ivory Joe Payne, aka Mobo Joe, backed up by his gargantuan vice president, Kenneth M. Taylor. Joe rapped and handled some production too. However, most of the music was handled by Ruthless Juveniles rapper named Death, although Merrill Real Rock Robinson and Leroy Precise Edwards were credited at times. In 1992, the first two releases on Mobo set the tone. Ruthless Juveniles, Lil Badness, Four Shab and Death, and Lower Level Organization, Ace, Notorious Anity and Mobo Joe, were both West Bank rap groups trading in the darkest, most anxiety-inducing gangster rap imaginable. In 1993, rapper Death released a solo record. Harvey's Doghouse Posse made music in the established Mobo sound. MC Spud, however, was a talented bounce rapper from Fisher. Hollywood was another bounce rapper on the label. In 1994, New Act Final Approach released their Gangster Bounce Final Approach cassette EP without art, and Lower Level returned with their second album.
The tales, niggas out jacking. Niggas out jacking. Gangsta tales, niggas out jacking.
At that time right there, I was real deep in the dope game. You know what I'm saying? It was really about selling a lot of drugs and just standing on business for anything that came your way to survive. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, people, it's the legendary Mobo Joe. We in my hood, Harvey, baby. We just chillin' in the hood. And I got my man, Ruthless Juvenile on Smoke Shop. Big foot, the realest dad, everything, man. You know what this is, man. What's happening? In order for me to bring it to the new, I gotta bring it to the old. You know what I'm saying? On the real. Go, tell me who you is, man. Tell me who you is. I'm Big Foot Shop. Mobo Camp Big Dog. 1/3 member of the Ruthless Juveniles. Yeah, hear from me in a minute, cause I've been kinda behind the ball, you know what I'm saying? But we come back
Let's let y'all know who really started this gang shit in New Orleans. You heard me?
I'm gonna let my boy tell the people when you hit the scene, some of your title, what the group you was with, let the people know, man.
We kicked this shit off in 1991 with Ruthless Juveniles. We had certain hits like Run That Shit, Die Nigga, Killing Spree, Gotta Get Out the Game, Murderism is my motherfucking fashion, which is Killing Spree. Yeah, 1991, 1992, me, the badness, dead on the track.
Gotta get off the gang.
I'm not your everyday drug dealer. I blow them brains out before you slam it, so I'm a career killer.
The Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office said a bank robbery suspect was injured after a deputy fired at him while fleeing officers after a chase through Marrero. The incident was unfolding in the 2100 block of Constantine Drive. The robbery happened shortly before 10 a.m. at the Iberia Bank at 1820 Barataria Boulevard. According to an email from JPSO spokesman Kohler's John Fortunato, the suspect, who was later identified as 38-year-old Brandon Gray, was seen fleeing in a GMC SUV. A deputy spotted the vehicle at Ames and La Palco Boulevards, Fortunato said. The deputy attempted to stop the vehicle, but Gray refused to stop and a chase ensued. The suspect continued fleeing into the Lincolnshire neighborhood and upon reaching the 2100 block of Constantine Drive, crashed into a home, Fortunato said. The deputy saw Gray jump from the vehicle and carrying a plastic bag. Authorities said he was armed with a handgun. After ordering Gray to stop, he turned with the weapon in his hand, pointed it at the deputy, who then fired at Gray, Fortunato said. The deputy was identified as 3rd District Patrol Officer Ted Raymond. Raymond fired his weapon, striking the suspect once in the leg, Fortunato said. After Gray was shot, he tried to flee by jumping several fences in the neighborhood. Brandon was taken into custody in the 2000 block of Constantine Drive. On October 19, 2016, the trial court sentenced defendant to 50 years imprisonment at hard labor without benefit of probation, parole, or suspension of sentence on counts 1 through 5, and to 5 years imprisonment at hard labor on count 6, to run concurrently. The first incident happened on September 30, 2013. Daniel Gannard, the manager, observed an individual with a pistol and a cloth over his face approach the bank, at which point he yelled out to alert the employees. Lynn Hebert, a manager, and Mr. Gannard described that the robber rushed through the door waving a gun and shouting obscenities. After knocking his gun on Mr. Gannard's window and telling him, "Get the fuck up! I'm not playing with you!" Gray proceeded to the teller window and demanded money. Gray pointed a gun at Gerard Murphy's head and commanded the teller to give him all the money. Mr. Murphy complied and started putting money into the white plastic grocery bag provided by the robber. During this encounter, Gray noticed Trudy White, a teller who was in the drive-up window, and ordered her to also give him all the money. She likewise complied with his demand and assisted Mr. Murphy in putting the money in the white grocery bag. After they put the money in the bag, the robber turned to leave, yelling for everyone to get down and threatening to shoot. While the robbery was in progress, Renee Rodney, a bank employee who was in the break room, saw what was transpiring, exited the back door, and ran to the restaurant next door for help. After someone from the restaurant called 911, Ms. Rodney went back outside and saw the robber exit the rear of the bank, skipping to his car, an older model gold Suburban, located behind the bank in a neighboring driveway. Deputy Stan Kerr of the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office responded to the armed robbery call, and upon his arrival, he secured the scene and obtained initial statements from the victims and witnesses. From these interviews, Detective Macaluso learned that the perpetrator was a black male, approximately 5'5" to 5'10" in height. He was wearing a camouflage boonie hat, a red sweatshirt, sunglasses, and a white cloth over his face. Additionally, Detective Macaluso learned that the assailant wore a yellow, reflective, construction-style vest and had a tattoo on his right hand. With this limited information, no suspects were developed, and the investigation was suspended. It was also determined that the perpetrator stole $4,020, none of which was recovered. The second armed robbery occurred on October 9th, 2014. At approximately 10 a.m., while Mr. Gannard was meeting with Ms. Hebert in his office, he saw an individual pass the window who resembled the perpetrator from the September 2013 armed robbery, prompting him to say, "He's back again, y'all, heads up." The robber, whose face was fully covered, rushed into the bank armed with a black handgun. After threatening Mr. Gannard, the assailant ran across the lobby, leapt over the teller counter, and yelled, "I want the money! I want all the money! Don't play with me, I will kill you." Gray approached Rachel Aina, grabbed money from her, put it in a white grocery bag, and then advanced towards Ms. White, the drive-up teller. Ms. White described that the Gray pointed the gun at her, demanded all the money, and threatened to kill her. Fearful for her life, Ms. White complied. The witnesses described that the robber had on blue jeans, a dark-colored shirt, a green bandana covering his face, and another garment covering his head. The robber's demands and put the money in the Walmart bag. The robber then went to Dana Sylvie, another teller, and demanded money from her. She handed him the money from her cash drawer, and after putting it in the plastic bag, the robber demanded that she open the vault. Ms. Sylvie explained that she could not open the vault by herself, but he held the gun at her side saying, "I will fucking shoot you. Open the fucking vault." Being unable to enter the vault, the robber collected his money, jumped back over the counter, and exited the bank. At the time of this robbery, Ms. Sylvie happened to be on the phone with her husband, Oliver Sylvie, a lieutenant with the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office. Ms. Sylvie told her husband that the bank was getting robbed, and then she put the phone down but did not hang up. Lieutenant Sylvie called in the robbery over his police radio. Police officers, including deputies Ted Raymond and Alvin Ferris, responded to the armed robbery call, and upon arriving in the area, observed a blue Suburban matching the description of the suspect vehicle on Lapalco Boulevard. A high-speed chase ensued, which ended when the vehicle crashed into a house in the Lincolnshire subdivision. The suspect then jumped out of the vehicle holding the bag with the money in one hand and a gun in the other. As he fled, the plastic bag got caught on the end of the bumper, causing the bag to rip and the money to be scattered over the front lawn. Deputy Raymond shouted at the suspect to stop, but he ignored the officer's order and jumped over a fence. When Deputy Raymond again shouted to stop, the suspect turned and pointed the gun at him, at which point Deputy Raymond fired his weapon at the armed assailant. Despite being shot, the suspect fled, but after a short foot chase was apprehended. Brandon Gray was thereafter handcuffed, advised of his rights, and transported to the hospital for treatment of his gunshot wounds. Major Chad Pitfield of the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office, who was also at the scene of the stop, secured the money that was in the front yard, $15,667. The officers also discovered a pellet gun in the area of defendant's apprehension. As a result of a search of the blue Suburban, the officers recovered a pair of gloves, a green bandana, and a dark blue sweatshirt. After learning that defendant had been transported to the hospital, Detective Macaluso went there with the intent to interview him. During the interview, defendant confessed to the October 9, 2014 armed robbery, but he denied any involvement in the September 30, 2013 robbery. When shown photographs of the suspect and suspect vehicle from surveillance video from the 2013 robbery, defendant still denied his involvement and further denied having previously seen the vehicle. Detectives then confronted defendant with evidence that he was issued a traffic citation on November 5, 2011, driving a 1996 GMC Gold Suburban, which belonged to his children's mother. The next day, detectives located this vehicle in the Lincolnshire neighborhood near the area where defendant was arrested. Search of that vehicle, the police recovered a box of pellets and construction-type equipment. Defendant was thereafter charged with both the September 30, 2013 and October 9, 2014 robberies.
Armed and dangerous, with the gat known as a lunatic, but now it's in my possession, suckers are fearing it.